Ian Rapoport here on the Honda Insider Report, brought to you by the Honda Summer Spectacular event. How have you been, Ian Rapoport?
Man, I thought you were going to use kind of the transition to be like, also an awesome dude, Ian Rapoport, but you didn't go there.
Hold on a second. Now joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show, also an awesome dude, Ian Rapoport here on the Honda Insider Report. How are you, Ian? Good.
I'm great. How are you, Rich?
I am well. Is Khalil Mack really on the trade market right now, Ian?
He is being asked about. I know that, and that's actually been going on for probably 4 weeks. But it's interesting because I think media a lot of times gets criticized for making things into too big of a deal. Like I think the media is making too big of a deal of Teddy Bridgewater's trade market, for instance. But what teams do is when they see, okay, a guy is potentially on the block, player's unhappy, he's great, we might want him on our team, they call based on a lot of times what they read in the media. So as soon as Khalil Mack wasn't showing up, everybody started calling the Raiders. And I've got no indication that the Raiders would even consider a trade. I'm not saying it's like impossible. I'm just saying when they've talked to teams, they have given the impression that that is not something we would even entertain. And, if you think about it, it would be very hard for this to happen because obviously he's worth a first-round pick and more. So let's say you give up that. Then you also pay him $21 or $22 million a year, and that is hefty. And is that really the most efficient way to handle your resources if you're a team? I think that's probably the biggest question.
So why aren't the Raiders paying Mack and the Rams paying Aaron Donald? Is this a related issue, Ian?
Well, I think the Rams are working on it with Aaron Donald. And, I don't know when it's going to get done, but they have been working for some time. I think everybody appears to be sort of going in the same direction. And there is, some positivity and some optimism there that it gets done. So I would not be surprised if Aaron Donald happens before the regular season. As far as Khalil Mack goes, he could do his own deal. It's not like he needs to wait for Aaron Donald. It might be easier if Donald sets the template. But I think the other thing with the Raiders is they would like to, just from the Raiders' perspective, they'd like to see him. They'd like to meet him. They'd like to have him meet the coaches and see what he's like in their schemes. I think there's sort of an assumption like he's a great player, so he's going to get handed a check for, $21 million or whatever it is per year, and he probably deserves it. But the other side of the coin is the Raiders would like to know what they are paying for, and it's an entirely, completely new regime.
What is happening there? What is happening, Ian? What is happening there? How did it go so south? How has it gone so far apart? There's a Monday Night Football game between the Rams and the Raiders that are good is being played 2 weeks from right now, Ian.
Yeah, I think what happened was there were discussions earlier this offseason. Mack showed up last year, was a good soldier, and then there were discussions earlier this offseason, and my understanding is they were so far apart that it just did not make sense to sort of continue negotiating. And, at this point, there is no current offer on the table. There have not been recent discussions at all. And I know there was sort of a lot made of the fact that John Gruden hasn't talked to him. If you're Khalil Mack, what's there to say? It's either put use the contract offer to state whatever you want to say, or what are we talking about?
Ian Rapoport here on the Rich Eisen Show. So one more item on this is what is the issue here? I know obviously money, but is it a percentage of what these players are making compared to what elite quarterbacks are making and what Von Miller came in at a couple of years ago? Just take me through the nuts and bolts. I've got Tom Condon in hour 2, but these are not his clients.
No, although I'm sure he would have some fascinating insight. I think he probably has done a couple multi-million-dollar deals similar to this. Some of it does work off. Some of it does work off Von Miller, and I would imagine that any Aaron Donald big-time extension that could be coming would be basically working off the Von Miller deal plus adjusted for what the recent cap is. And, all of these deals sort of assume that the player is the best player, highest paid player, at the position. Easy assumption to make with Donald. I believe the Raiders there with Mack, but again, like it's just money that counts, nothing else.
Ian Rapoport here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, which rookie quarterbacks are starting week one? Best you can tell right now.
I would say Sam Darnold. I think that is pretty clear. That would be one. Other than that, it's hard for me to see where it would actually, which of these rookies would step in. I think, Josh Allen certainly had a moment, had an opportunity yesterday, did not look great, obviously. And it's interesting. I was up in Buffalo a couple days ago, and when they wanted to judge everything about Josh Allen the past week, not just his play, but how he handled when he was named the starter officially. Everyone's texting him, hey, great job, congratulations, the huddles, the meetings, the practices, everything. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was simply he's not quite ready. So I would say for me, probably just Darnold right now.
And the aspect of Carson Wentz being up in the air right now, to what do you owe Doug Peterson's, I guess, frustration? Does it sound like he really doesn't have a say in this, that it's just a doctor and he can't control it and he wants his guy out there, but he also knows that he doesn't want to put him out there if he can get hurt for even longer? I mean, suss out what's going on in Philadelphia for me right now, Ian Rapoport.
Yeah, I think there, of course, is frustration. And I don't know that it's just the same questions over and over. Remember, he's been getting these questions for months. And it takes a special man like Bill Belichick it takes a special man to deal with these week after week after week and not get frustrated. But I think some of it is it's out of everyone's hands. And I think they knew it was going to be a really close call before the season. They knew it was going to go down to the wire. The fact that Carson Wentz is not cleared for contact obviously means he has an uphill battle to actually be ready for week one. But on the other hand, there was a reason they didn't really consider any trades for Nick Foles, and this is exactly the reason. By the way, the Patriots just extended Shaq Mason on a 10-year extension. Big move for them, and they're one of their marquee parts of their offensive line.
Was that a 10-year extension, or was that
five-year, $50 million?
5-year, 10 a year extension. So I guess Brady should be happy about that, right? I mean, that sounds like something you should be happy about. And he hung up on EEI today. I mean, he's in postseason form right now.
So my sense on the Alex Guerrero thing was kind of funny, but my sense on that, Rich,
yes,
is you ever had this situation where like someone is irrationally angry with you, and you're like, man, this doesn't make any sense. The only way it makes sense, and then you figure out that their bosses got angry at them, so then they got angry at you, right? I would imagine that at some point Tom Brady was told, like, look, we're not going to get into it again. I'm sure he would like to talk about it. He talked about it plenty in the past. I think right now there's probably some sort of nudge from somewhere inside the Patriots facility, like, look, can we just not talk about it this year? Thanks.
Well, I mean, the first time that Brady ended a press conference on the subject of his trainer, Alex Guerrero, and TB12 partner, Alex Guerrero, happened in his first press availability of training camp when your colleague, I think it was Ben Volin of the Boston Globe, connected Guerrero to Julian Edelman's suspension. Now that right there is a third rail implication that Brady ended a press conference over. This was just merely asking, hey, man, he's back on the plane or he's back on the sideline. Are we cool? And that could be basically handled like, yeah, everything's fine. We're good. I'm not here to talk about the past.
He did say he's back on the plane, which he is, by the way.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, the Ben Volin thing, that was my understanding is that those two issues, Edelman's suspension and Guerrero, are not related at all. But, I mean, you're right. I can certainly understand why Brady would be angry with that implication.
Yeah.
I really just think he just I'm done. Like, I'm not supposed to talk about it. I'm not allowed to talk about it. I'm not going to. And, I read the transcript from EI. It was like 6 questions in a row. Now, I would never hang up on you for anything, Rich.
Thank you, Ian.
But if you ask me 6 questions around something I'm not going to answer, I would at least make some sort of a angry, distorted face at you, you know?
You're not doing that right now, are you, Ian?
No comment.
Good, thank you. Ian Rapoport at Rap Sheet here on the show. So when ask the poll question of Ian before we wrap things up with him. Chris,
Okay,
go for
quickly, Ian. After preseason week 3, which team is in the most trouble? Cowboys, Eagles, Bills, Dolphins.
Wait, start it again. I had a notification on my phone to step over part of your word. Say it again.
What was the notification?
What a 21st century thing to say. I could not hear you read the poll question because a notification came over my phone.
This is like the bane of my existence, trying to have normal human conversations while my phone rang 3 times and I had 11 text messages. Go ahead.
Okay, go for it. He's a busy man.
He's a busy man. After preseason week 3, which team in the most trouble? Cowboys, Eagles, Bills, Dolphins.
I would say probably Bills. I mean, yesterday was rough. Bengals defensive line may be good, but I didn't know it was that good. I think the Cowboys are going to be fine. I think the Eagles are going to be, you know, if Carson Wentz does not start the season for week 1, I still think they're going to be probably fine and in decent shape when he comes back. Yeah, I would say the Bills starting Nathan Peterman, who did not beat out Tyrod Taylor last year.
Yeah, and you know, on that offensive line, you know, Cordy Glenn is on the other sideline because Josh Allen is behind an offensive line in Buffalo that is not seemingly equipped to protect anybody right now. And so I would say that. But the Dallas Cowboys, you know, appear to be thin at many spots: tight end, wide receiver, suddenly now offensive line. We're always wondering what their secondary is going to look like. They don't concern you right now, Ian?
They really don't. I really think they're going to be okay. I mean, I think Dak is going to be better, certainly better with no Dez. Michael Gallup is going to be really good. People haven't heard of, but he's a receiver they drafted this year they like a lot. Offensive line, when Travis Frederick gets back, and I was told weeks, not months, I think their offensive line will be just as good as always, and Zeke is going to be better this year.
All
I
right.
think Cowboys are going to be fine.
And
I
then,
really do.
I guess
Crazy.
last one for you so you can go to your texts and notifications, which I don't get to say to too many people. Why is Dez unsigned? What's going on? You know, and with the Browns having to reach out to others to try and get him on the phone, finally get him into camp in Cleveland. I mean, how it sure looks like, barring any injury, maybe Jacksonville's on the phone to Dez Bryant right now. I don't know, based on Marquise Lee. Why is he unsigned right now, Ian?
I mean, I think the short answer is he hasn't reached a deal with Cleveland. I don't get the sense that door is closed. A lot of times deals happen when they need to, which is right before the start of the season. Maybe they come together. But I know Cleveland made an offer. So I do not get the sense the door is closed, but I also don't think that the Jaguars are going to be reaching out just strictly off Doug Marrone's comments.
Doug Marrone's comments, what do you mean?
He basically said he's really comfortable with the receiver they have on the roster just a couple minutes ago.
All right, Ian. Thanks for the time, brother. We'll chat down the line. See you shortly.
All right. Thanks, Rich.
You got that's Ian Rapoport of the NFL Media Group at Rap Sheet.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.